Pokemon used to make you waste a move slot on HMs. Cut, Surf, Strength, your team actually suffered, just so one Bidoof could carry your entire adventure. But in Generation 7 they finally fixed it. Ride Pokemon replaced HMs entirely, meaning the Pokemon that normally help you through the region never actually have to battle. So today I'm changing that. This is a Pokemon Ultra Moon challenge run where I can only use Ride Pokemon in battle. No gifts, no totems, no route catchers. If I can't ride it, I can't use it. And somehow I have to beat the entire game with a team made up of glorified transportation. So buckle up, because we're about to find out whether Pokemon's replacement for HMs can actually beat the game. I have said it before, and I will beat this drum until there is literally no drum left. I love Alola. My favourite region and my favourite games. Yeah, flame me in the comments, I know it's a hot take, but man, it is goated. Now obviously our potential roster raises an issue regarding starter choice, and as Charmander is technically our first encounter, I decide to call up Nintendo yet again, and they use their magic and grace me with their favourite ever Pokemon as our starter. And after a long intro sequence, we save Nebby, get some Pokeballs, and the run officially begins. And full disclosure, the early game was interesting to say the least. Due to only having one Pokemon, we do go over the level cap, but they are soft level caps this run, as this is no nuzlocke, because I need a break. We take down Alima by utilising the Work Up TM we got from the trainer school, but that damned Vincent Van Doge is so annoying with Water Gun, but we do pull through. And the first trial is super easy on this version, as we can just teach our Salamander Brick Break, and as it is quite effective, we can breeze through the Totem and their ally. And just before we face down against the Grand Trial, our starter learns Dragon Rage and evolves into Charmeleon, which is a awesome power boost, and we will need it against the Fighting Master. We bring their lead matchup low with a Dragon Range, and they fire off a Crit Revenge, bringing us super low before Berry. Great. That's basically a wrap. We manage to take the Makahita down, but his ace smashes us with the Z move, which is a little overkill, handing us the first whiteout of the run. We attempt it again, and with no crit from matchup, we can KO that and the Makahita while staying above half before his crab is out, and we bring them deep into the yellow as they fire off their Z move. And we survive on 1 HP, meaning we outspeed the next turn and get the KO. Holy, that was close. And our reward for beating him is we get to ride Tauros, which means we can now access 10 Carrot Hill and get our next encounter, a Machamp. Machamp is such an iconic mon, and yet another Pokemon I have never used properly. And with that, we hop on a Mantine and surf over to the next island. And here is where the run really takes off. We can pick up a Mudbray. Now, Mudsdale is one of my favourites, and it is just a beast. We can also get a Tauros, which is a classic, as well as a Lillipup, which is certainly underrated. And after our puppy evolves, we take on the water trial, and this is a Araquanid with a speed boost. So I leave with our ground type, which looks silly, but it sacrifices its little pony life for us, but not before firing off 2 bulldozers, getting the totem to -1 speed. Thankfully Tauros can come in, and a couple of horn attacks later KO the spider, and then Charmeleon can get the KO on its ally. That was far more simple than I thought it'd be. We head straight for the fire trial, and get used to this team, as this is all we will have until the final stretch of the game. But it is all we need for now. I lead with Machamp against the Totem Marowak, and we survive a Flame Wheel and knock off their thick club, massively nerfing the Ghost. They call their ally as I sack Machamp so we can safely get the pony in, and a couple of bulldozers later we get both KOs and finish another trial. The following grass trial was a simple one as well. We had to stall out their synthesis healing as they call Comfey for their ally, and they set up the sun, but the stars seem to align as we get brought low and they set up the sun, and we are using Charmeleon, so a sun boosted, blaze boosted Ember gets the KO from that range, and then our pony can come in and take down the sentient Lay, conquering another trial. This team is pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. We have a brief stop at the Interdimensional Research Lab and chat with the world's hottest couple before pushing onwards, and our fighting type evolves into Machoke as we face down against the grand trial of this island, Olivia, a man. I may be thirsty, but why is everyone in this game hot? Anyway, her rock types are usually an issue, but I lead Tauros and I taught our bull Smart Strike, and with the leftovers attached, we take down Anorith, whilst also staying near full HP. Charmeleon takes down her other fossil with no trouble. Dragon Rage is so OP. But we did get lucky that they got no Omni boost. Her Ace Lycanroc is her final mon, and I bring Tauros back in for the Intimidate, and they fire off the Z move, which brings us to well below half. We both lower each other's speed with a Rock Tomb and a Bulldoze before I bring in our fighting type, and Machoke immediately gets its first KO since its evolution, completing yet another island. We then get accosted at the hotel and invited to a remote private island, and obviously we go. We are trying to become the champion, and it seems anyone who is anything frequents that sort of establishment. Anyway, we briefly stop by to meet Mrs. Lucamine, save her life, she wants me so bad, and progress on with the story. And as we disembark, Hal jumps us, and thankfully this went better than it has in the past. I mean, it didn't go great. His starter takes down 2 of ours, including our fire type, which is just embarrassing, but thankfully our last 3 mons can clutch up. Tauros goes off, staying healthy with rest, and the other 2 manage to pick up a KO each. He is a bit of a menace though, I can't lie. And as we get up to the level cap for the next trial, our ground type evolves into the stallion that is Mudsdale, and this thing is awesome. Truly one of my favourites, and it is the perfect lead for Sophocles and the electric boss. They protect first turn so their ally joins them, and the next turn an Ironhead flinches us, which is fun. We get brought to almost half, but no flinch, so we can fire off a Bulldoze, which almost brings them to half. This is a long process with Torment, them protecting and us flinching, but we can eventually bring them low before Berry as we are brought into the red. I then bring in Tauros, who can take down the totem with a couple of Bulldozers, and then Charmeleon can secure the victory by taking down the Skarmory. On paper, that should have been simple, but that was way more annoying than it should have been. We then link back up with the Professor to give him his mask, and this chaff starts mouthing off at us, and he challenges us to a battle and absolutely destroys us. Like, by far the most difficult battle so far, and he only has 2 Pokemon. How embarrassing. I even lead Tauros as well, and we don't even do a quarter before being brought super low by Razor Shell, and I decide to switch to get another Intimidate off, and we get in safely thanks to their Sucker Punch. We manage to bring them below half so their ability activates and Masquerain comes out. I swap into Charmeleon on a Bug Bus, and then an Air Slash flinches us. I bring in our horse and we manage to get some chip damage before falling to a Bug Buzz. We then proceed to get swept by his bug, which I think is just humiliating. After handing us our second whiteout of the run, I teach Rock Tomb to literally all of my party, and then we try again, and this time it goes a lot better. We intimidate the Golisopod and lower its speed with a Rock Tomb. We get brought low, but we bring it below half so Masquerain comes in. I bring in our horse and we take 2 Bug Buzzers before firing off a Rock Tomb, which crits for the Oko. His ace is back out and I let our pony fall to bring in Stoutland for the Intimidate safely. And with Rock Tomb, we can fire off 2 which take it down. So much smoother. He throws his toys out the pram, and then Lily tells us of a haunted, abandoned supermarket. So guess where we're headed next? And in the depths of the haunted Big Tesco is the Totem Mimikyu. Decent stats, a cheeky Omni boost and a broken ability. But I have a horse. I think it's a fair fight. I lead with our dog to intimidate the Pika clone, and we take a play rough well. Now they are at neutral attack, and we fire off a Rock Tomb to bring their speed to neutral and break their disguise. The annoying ally Burnett comes in, and we get brought low before being burned by it, but we lower the totem speed even further. I get a final Rock Tomb off before sacking the Pooch, and I decide to bring in the Horse. A feint attack and a play rough do about a third and gives us a +2 defense boost, before a super effective heavy slam smashes the totem to well below half. We get burned the next turn, so we don't quite KO the totem, but we do take it out the next turn, and as it is just the Burnett left, I go into Charmeleon, who cannot be burned, so we complete yet another trial. And this next segment is so brutal. We have to take on our nemesis Guzma yet again in Po Town, but I have a plan this time. Due to the increased level cap, Charmeleon can evolve into the worst Kanto starter, but that flying type will prove so useful. Yeah, if we get access to a special flying move. I lead our starter against his awesome bug, and a stab super effective wing attack does about a quarter before we get smashed and O-code by a Razor Shell. If only we had Air Slash. I bring in our other new addition, and we miss a Rock Slide before being brought below half, and the next turn it hits, but it doesn't even bring it to half, but we thankfully get a flinch. So after activating their ability, Masquerain comes in and intimidates us, and knowing they outspeed and will KO us, I bring in our Horse, but of course we get crit on the switch. We fall the next turn, and I bring in our dog, and Retaliate fails to get the KO, so we fall to 2 Bug Buzzers. Tauros puts up a fight, and despite KOing Masquerain, Pinsir tanks a Rock Slide so well and ends up KOing the rest of our team, handing us the 3rd wipe of the run, with Guzma giving us 2 of them. So of course I immediately try again, but this time I switch things up by intimidating his lead, and thanks to Rock Tomb lowering its speed, Stoutland can outspeed and bring them well below half, meaning they switch out. Pinsir comes in and finishes off our dog, but it did its job well. Charizard easily wins the 1v1 against Pinsir, and then we can get some chip off on Golisopod before falling to a Razor Shell. But as they are super low, Tauros can outspeed and pick it off, meaning Masquerain is his final mon, and a Rock Slide almost O-codes the Menace, so our Horse can come in and finish it off. God, he is actually so difficult, it is unreal. Anyway, he releases the Pokemon he stole, and we found out that Lily has been kidnapped by her hot mum. Why is it never me? We obviously have to go and save her, but we get stopped by Nanu before we can board the boat, because of course this is the best time for our grand trial battle, and thankfully he is super simple. The Horse can take down his lead and his Croc just by existing and getting the stamina boost to outlast them, and then his ace gets smashed by our underwhelming Gen 1 fighting type, completing yet another island. And once we've cleared out the Ether Paradise of its devious staff and scientists, only 2 remain before us, and the first one is Guzma, because of course it is. I go for the same strat as before, and we intimidate his lead with our dog before lowering its speed. We get brought below half before activating its ability and bringing in Pinsir. I bring in our physical wall and we get crit, but it literally does nothing, and eventually we can bring it down with a Rock Slide. Vikavolt, his new addition, comes out and an Energy Ball KOs our Horse from that range, but it means we can safely bring in Charizard, who can KO with 2 Flame Bursts. Tauros can then come in, and we get the KO on both his remaining Pokemon, defeating that for the final time. We enter the final room where the fox stands before us with her Pokemon that she is frozen in ice. Man, that's cold. But this time she was actually pretty simple to take down. Her Clefable falls to our puppy after a few retaliates. Her bear gets smashed by a flame burst from Zard. Milotic was a head scratcher, but after a bulk up, a low sweep does half and both mons are then left on 1 HP, but due to the speed drop we can get the KO. Lilligant comes in and instead of finishing us off, they confuse our fighting type and then we break through twice to get the KO. And her final mon is Lopunny, so I bring in the wall and we can defeat the evil lady, and instead of being gracious in defeat, she and Guzma just go into an alternate universe. Fair enough, I can't blame her. It does make me laugh that when her mum disappears, Lily has a glow up. Now, I'm no psychologist, but there is definitely some unresolved family trauma there. Anyway, now that the Ether Foundation are no more, we can progress to the final island for the final stretch of the run. And it is on this island where we get the final encounters of the run, the 2 water types. On Pony Breaker Coast we can fish for a Carvana and then we can surf until a Lapras appears. Both of these Pokemon are great, but unfortunately for Sharpedo, I have used it more recently, and Lapras is Lapras. We solve a puzzle with Machamp, watch as Hapu gets chosen to be the island Capitan, and progress to the next trial deep in the canyon, featuring the region's pseudo-legendary and their Omni Boost. I switch between our 2 normal types. Yes, stab super effective Drain Punches do huge damage, but we do get them to -3 attack before our Bull and Dog fall. Our horse can take down their ally Noivern before I bring in Lapras and Perish Trap the totem. Well, that was the plan until I realised it had soundproof. Thankfully I have a plan B, and that is Bulk Up Machamp. I get up to +6, and as it has increased my defence as well, we survive the incoming move before KOing the totem with a cross chop, and then we can take down their ally Scizor as well. Machamp might finally be pulling its weight. But we are not done there. We head up the stairs to the altar, play the flute, summon the legendary, and ride it through a wormhole until we emerge at Ultra Megalopolis, where Necrozma, the legendary, has fled to after stealing all of the light in the region. We climb to the highest room of the tallest tower, where it awaits Ultra Necrozma, an insanely powerful legendary with a base stat total of over 750. But I have a plan. I use the only focus sash, and I had to do it at some point. I know my Perish Trap failed before, but it won't this time. I let a lot of mons fall, but as I do, their Perish timer hits 0, and with the demon defeated, Lunala is freed, and the light has been restored to the world. But yet again, we are not done yet, and this isn't even the grand trial, just the final trial of the run, and Mina has us running all over the region. We have to battle each trial captain to get suspicious looking petals to make a flower, and I won't bore you with it, we wipe the floor with them, but it's what lies ahead which is the scariest mon yet. Ribombee with a double Omni Boost. Oh, and first turn it sets up a quiver dance, so our flamethrower does so little. They then call their ally Pelipper, which sets up the rain, which is just not looking good for us. I managed to get a couple of sky drops off on the totem, bringing them below half before falling, which is a decent showing from the Zard. And I do it again. Look, guys, dislike if you want, call me smelly in the comments, but how am I supposed to beat this without Perish Song? If you see a solution, please let me know. Their bank account falls to 0, and we have finally defeated the hardest section of the run. Next up is Hapu, and she was no trouble in the Grand Trial battle. Our dog takes down the Golurk with a couple of crunchers, and then we get some chip off on her horse before we get smashed by their Z move. But from that range, Lapras can come in, fire off an Ice Beam for the KO on their horse. Flygon does a little with an Earth Power, but gets smashed by a quad effective Ice Beam for the Oko, as her final mon is Gastrodon, and with Lapras chipping away at it, Sharpedo poisoning with Poison Fang, and then firing off huge stab crunchers, we can pick up the KO, defeating the Grand Trial and completing the Island Challenge. The only thing left to do now is to climb up Mount Lanakila and to take on the Pokemon League. And on my way up, we smash Gladion, Gridion Necrozma, and arrive at our final destination. I decide to leave Sharpedo in the box, and this is the team that I settle on. Bumper Cars the Mudsdale, Stamina and Leftovers is a cheat code, and that moveset has everything from utility to good coverage. Ferris Wheel the Tauros, Awful Nature, but Intimidate is always great, as well as Stab Thrash and Rest if we need it. Teacups the Zard with Flamethrower and Air Slash as well as some coverage. Merry-Go the Stoutland, another Intimidate Mon with huge damage potential with Stab at last resort. Helter Skelter the Lapras with more leftovers, Ice Beam and Hydro Pump for big stab damage, and Toxic just to be annoying. And finally Machamp the Big Dipper. Bulk Up and Cross Chop is unreal, and Knock Off for those pesky Psychic types. I think this team has what it takes. Do you? I opt for Molayne first. Our team matches quite well with Steel, but man, this went horribly wrong. Their lead Klefki is annoying, it sets up Reflect so we don't OHKO with an Earthquake. Then I stall out the Reflect turns as they set up hazards and we can eventually take it down. Metagross is out and we easily take it down, barely taking any damage, and then Dugtrio is out next. It outspeeds and hits a Fissure that just takes us down as it is always a one-hit KO. Man, that was so unexpected. Charizard, thankfully though, can KO the ground type, and then we bring Magnezone down to Sturdy before falling to a Thunderbolt. And his final Mon is Bisharp. With our dog in, I fire off a Crunch that gets the defense drop, which activates their Defiant ability. We then survive the incoming Iron Head on 1 HP, and another Crunch gets another defense drop, but now they are at +4 attack. We give it a good go, but they destroy us, and even when we bring them low, they full restore, giving us another wipe. I immediately attempt it again and lead Charizard this time. His house keys paralyse us, but we break through to get the KO. Magnezone comes out, so I bring in the wall and break Sturdy with Heavy Slam, and then KO from that range with an Earthquake. His pseudo legendary is out and I bring in our dog, and Intimidate fails due to Clear Body, but a Crunch does a good amount of chip before we fall, and it means that Charizard can KO from that range. Bisharp is out next and we don't give it any stat boosts as we just OHKO with a Flamethrower, and finally Dugtrio is out. A Sucker Punch does little, so Charizard can get another OHKO. That was the performance of a GOAT, I'm not gonna lie. I challenge Olivia next and her rock types are pretty sturdy. Stoutland wins the 1v1 against our Maldo, and this brings out her ace Lycanroc. I end up leaving our dog in to take the Z move, which does KO us, but it means I can safely bring in Machamp, and a Cross Chop doesn't even KO, so it takes another to bring it down. I decide to stay in against Cradilly and we bring it down to healing range, so after they heal we set up a Bulk Up and OHKO from full. Mudsdale can win the 1v1 against Probopass by breaking Sturdy and then firing off an Earthquake, and her final Mon is one of the coolest rock types ever, Gigalith. But our pony was built for this, and we can take it down with 2 Earthquakes, meaning we have defeated yet another Elite Four member. Acerola and her ghost types is another simple one. I mean, our dog literally takes down her first 2 Pokemon, Banette and Frozlass, despite being confused, and we burn 2 heals. Unreal. Lapras can take down the Delmines with super effective Ice Beams. Palossand is out and we poison before switching into Zard, but they heal up. I then go into Tauros as we baited the Z move and it fails, and then I bring in Lapras on an Earth Power and we survive on 8 HP, which is again an unreal showing, so we can poison again before our Water type falls. I bring in Machamp and with Knockoff we can get the KO, and her final Mon is Drifblim, and with 2 more, Machamp secures yet another victory. Kahili is the final member that stands in our way, and subscribe if I'm wrong, but I don't think they even show up during the story. Anyway, Lapras wins the 1v1 against Braviary before falling to Hawlucha to safely bring in Charizard, who can OHKO with an Air Slash. Tauros brings down the deceptively strong Vulture with Rock Slide and a Thrash, and the Thrash continues to wreak havoc, taking down Toucan. And the final Mon of the Elite Four is Oricorio. Yeah, pretty anticlimactic, and it ends up just being fodder for our horse. And with the Elite Four down, we sit on the throne, but we aren't done yet. We have 1 battle left, and that is against our rival from the start, Hal. This is the Championship Showdown, so he is no joke, and he starts strong by leading with Alolan Raichu. And a Psychic does a fair chunk before we can obliterate him with an Earthquake, bringing out everyone's favourite evolution, Vaporeon. I bring in Lapras, and the only move this thing can hit us with is Quick Attack, so after poisoning we can whittle it down and stay healthy with the leftovers and get the KO. The ugly crab is out and we avoid the Stone Edge and fire off a super effective Psychic for a good chunk, and we don't avoid the second and we are both brought low, and now I expect the heal. I go into Machamp, but they just fire off a Stone Edge that does little to our fighting type. Now they heal, which is just annoying, and after surviving an Ice Hammer on 7 HP, we get the KO with a Cross Chop. His own bull is out and there is no chance we outspeed here, so I go into our horse, but a Double Edge does massive damage on the switch. We put up a fight, but Stab Double Edge does too much damage and we fall as they are brought into the red, so our own bull can come in and they fall to their own recoil damage. House Starter is out and I go into Charizard on the Z move, which does so little, and then a Flamethrower does huge damage, and then a smackdown of all moves KOs our foe Dragon. Thankfully they're weak enough to fall to a crunch from Stoutland, and their final mon is Noivern, and I have an idea. I protect first turn to Scout, and then after taking a Dragon Pulse, fire off and retaliate for a third. We survive another in the red and I go for a last resort. And of course the 140 base power stab move gets the KO, defeating the rival and crowning us champion of the Alola region. That run was insane. The limited encounters made me scratch my head at times, but it was so rewarding when it finally started to click. I love the idea of using Pokemon that have an alternate use or a job in the Pokemon world. Because let's be honest, all Sharpedo and Tauros are known for in this game is breaking rocks, but using them, they're actually pretty decent. I thank every single one of you for watching, and if you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more wacky Pokemon challenges, and if you have anything to add or a run to suggest, let me know down below. And with all that said, stay classy and have a wonderful, wonderful day.